Oh wait, I can't. He says, Tommy Robinson incited violence. I asked him for one example and he can't give me one. Not one. Get out your, one second. Get out your phone. Google. No, wait. Get out your phone. Google where Tommy Robinson incited violence. Give us an example. Come on.
Okay, can you give me an example?
No. This is a two-way conversation.
I know, but you've not answered any of my questions.
I have.
I asked, who's been arrested? Has anyone been arrested?
Tommy Robinson.
No, has anyone been
Tommy
arrested?
Robinson.
Okay, anyone
Tommy
during
Robinson.
The riot? Anyone during the riot?
Tommy Robinson.
Who during the riot was
Right,
arrested?
hold on. So now he asked for an example. One second. Sister, please. Wait, let's do... Peter Lynch. For what? What, but did he incite violence or was he the guy that was just shouting at the police? Right. Okay. So... Wait, 1 second. Right, wait 1 second. We're not changing the topic.
But Tommy Robinson wasn't.
You're jumping around in the... 1 second. The reason...
Who's arrested at the riot?
Your question... 1 second. You're changing your question.
I'm not. That was the question I asked.
Here's the question you asked.
Who's arrested at the riot?
Here's the question you asked. The very question you asked is give me an example of someone who was arrested for political speech.
During the riots.
No, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. You said... And we said Tommy Robinson. And then you said for inciting violence.
Yes.
And then we asked you for one example where Tommy Robinson incited violence. And you can't. Oh, right. So we gave him an example, but because he can't back up.
Can you show me a video of Tommy Robinson?
Because he can't back up.
Tommy Robinson
Because he can't back up the point that he made. Because he can't back up the point that he made. Shouting at police officers. But not participating in violence. There was a riot, but some people were arrested just for shouting at police officers.
During a riot in which people have set
Are you denying that?
Hotel,
No.
Are
you denying that? Are you denying that? Are you denying that? So what you're saying is they're guilty by association.
I'd say if you're part of a mob and that mob sets alight a
all of them.
People. No, not everyone.
All of them.
All of them went arrested.
No. There we go.
All of them arrested.
Thank you. So we've established the principle. That you're not guilty by association. So what about the man that was arrested not because he tried to burn down a hotel, not because he used any violence, but just because he swore at police officers and shouted? What about him? You don't know.
I think you're part of a crowd, and if you're targeting police, swearing at police, and people are attacking police, I think that is inciting violence.
So what about
targeting police, attacking police?
What about?
And being part of a mob that's swearing at police,
Do you think it is a criminal offence to walk around the streets of England with a machete? Do you think people should be arrested for walking the streets with machetes?
Yes.
Right. Can you name? What about attacking police officers and beating them?
You still not give me an example of someone who was arrested purely for speaking.
Right. I will give you. He wants a name. He wants a name. He wants a name. We'll find a name. Could someone, while we're talking, find the name of the gentleman that was arrested, thrown in prison, and his only offence was he swore at the police, he shouted at police, and Peter Lynch. Okay, it was Peter Lynch, right. So we've got a name, Peter Lynch.
I think that is a credible example of inciting violence. If you're part of a crowd that attacks police, sets hotels on fire, burns down businesses, burns down libraries, I think that is a credible example.
Great. Right, 1 second. Wait, sister. Let me have a conversation with him.
Please. I think we all
You've got to. The thing is, right. He's just using the lady not to enter that debate. I'll wait until they're done.
What about the police? What about the police in Manchester?
Yeah, I got one. To do with him.
What about? So here's the point, bro. Right? You're saying it is legitimate to throw a man in prison for years who merely shouted at police officers. Do you therefore call for the arrest of that entire Muslim mob who marched through the streets of Birmingham with machetes and knives? Do you call for their arrest?
If someone is in public with a machete...
Do you call for their arrest? Yes, brilliant. Okay, good. Give them a round of applause. So, wait. Sister, please. Let's boil a fish slowly. Sister, please. Right, now let's ask him this. Do you believe that the two Muslims who battered those police officers should also be now in prison and arrested? Brilliant, great. Great, give him a round of applause. Now explain to me why, explain this, why are the two people that beat the police officers not in prison? Why are the Muslim mob that walked around with the machetes not in prison? Why is Nick Lowell's, who lied about an acid attack that incited a mob to walk around with machetes, not in prison? Why is a Labour councillor that called for the slitting of throats and the slitting of throats of people, why is he not in prison? Go on, explain that. Go on,
Why?
Is that the same as going to court?
Labour MP not suspended?
That's not the question.
Oh,
No, that's not the question. And how quickly did they prosecute the other side?
Very quickly, within a day.
Go on,
The
explain.
example that you just used, that guy's...
All right, but the point is, we're talking about a two-tier police system and a two-tier judiciary system. I'm giving, you asked for examples, I've now given you multiple examples. Explain to me how it's not two-tier policing and how it's not two-tier judiciary.
I don't think there's an example of people arrested during the summer riots who were arrested not rightfully. The only person you gave an example was someone who was in a crowd swearing and shouting at police, during which violence was carried out against those police officers. I think that is a valid reason for arrest.
But you haven't addressed the fact that a mob of Muslims walked through the streets with machetes and knives and not one of them was arrested. Not one of them.
Okay, so some people may not have been arrested.
Is that fair?
But I think there was other people.
Is that fair?
No, that's not fair. But I
Thank you. Wait.
Can I finish my sentence?
Thank you. It's not fair. But he's going to justify the unfairness. Go on. Justify the
I'm saying there's
unfairness.
multiple examples of unfairness. Also, unfairness would be some of the people who went arrested during the summer. I think there's people who are arrested as a
Give us an example.
I cannot name every single protest of the thousands of people.
But you demanded a name from me. And you give me one. Give me one example. Give me one.
Okay, so are you saying that every single person that was out in the summer protest was arrested? No, they weren't.
No, we're not saying
Right.
that.
So I'm saying people.
Do you think they should all be arrested?
No, of course not all of them.
On what
I think there
basis
was
do you make the
people-
distinction?
People who incited and carried out violence against police.
People
and-
who incited and carried out violence. How is swearing at a police officer inciting violence?
If there is a mob and people are throwing things at police, lighting things on fire, setting buildings on fire, if you're part of that mob at the front, swearing at police officers and being a part of a crowd that is attacking them, in that moment, if you've been told to swear, if you're then still going, that is definitely inciting violence.
Right, no it isn't. No it isn't.
Right, so if I went
No,
on
it isn't.
So if I went
What
on
about
the
the mob? What
if I got
went to the
bricks and started
police
throwing at them,
station
and you were next to me
demanding-
swearing at them, shouting at them, you would say that you're completely...
Right.
Yeah.
One second. You see, the thing is, right, he is trying to justify an enforcement of the law against the summer working class white rioters, whilst wanting not to address the fact that we had a Muslim mob walking through the streets with machetes. What about the Muslim mob who, after the two Muslims assaulted the police officers, gathered outside the police station in Manchester, threatened the police officers in Manchester, threw instruments, eggs at the police station? Should they also be arrested? Right. Can you explain why they have not been arrested?
I can't tell you every single
You can't tell
every
me.
single case.
Is it
But
fair?
I think the broad point that
Is it
people who
fair?
were arrested during the summer riots deserve to be arrested.
Is it fair?
No, I think there's lots of unfairness in the justice system
Thank
in
you.
every area.
Great. So the
Just
initial...
because one instance happens on a side
Great.
that you disagree
So
with.
now,
Instance.
one,
Whoa.
there's hundreds of innocent
There's
people in prison right now.
And there's
Hundreds of innocent people. Hundreds of innocent people. Right, so now we've established that we have identified unfairness. Is it another name to call something that is unfair two-tier? Is that a fair synonym? No, it's not.
I wouldn't suggest
No,
that
it's
there's been
not.
multiple instances of unfairness throughout the justice system. If some instances in certain areas aren't carried out the way they should have been, but if
Right.
that just doesn't happen in another area,
And what
it doesn't
happens-
necessarily mean that two different groups are...
And what? Well, one second. What happens if we can identify a
friends?
pattern based on the groups of people?
But you're going after this thing about white working class people. Do you not think that in the way that the rioters during 2011 were treated, they weren't white? The majority of those rioters, or a lot of them even, weren't white, but they were treated more harsh than they were this gone summer. They kept the courts open all night.
They did that now?
They did it, but not to the same extent they did then.
No, they did it the same.
Not to the same extent.
No, they've done it the same.
So I don't understand why you're focusing on the fact that they're white and they're from certain areas.
Right,
When
here's
what
why.
happened in London.
Here's why. Here's why. It's a fair question.
So what I think is...
Here's why.
Can I finish just
Yeah, go
the
on.
point? I think when we have these instances of mass riots, the burning of buildings, town squares, areas of cities that you can't go, I think those instances in the height of it, because of the disorder and the chaos that is created, I think that those instances are cracked down on much harder. And sometimes there may be cases of unfairness in that. Sometimes people may be grouped together. But I think once that happens, and if you get involved in that, I don't think you can go crying injustice when you've been part of that mob that is like such thing. In the same way in 2011, there was people who were like 16, 17, they just went out, part of mobs, and many of them are still in prison. They were put in prison for multiple years, so I think
different groups are policed differently and the judiciary is applied differently. The whole point today, do you think that Muslims, who most of whom vote Labour, have not been policed and prosecuted in the same way that white working classes, who mostly vote Reform, if they vote at all, have been treated differently? Do you think that's a fair question to ask? To ask the question, why?
I think it's a very fair question. The way that I would like to come back at that, firstly, how do you suggest that the Labour government has in any way implemented this two-tip policing? Because it was something that was accused of the previous government as well. Yeah. So I'm just curious, how was the Labour government, given the separation of our judiciary to our legislature, how do you think the Labour government has done that?
Well, the separation between government and legislature is a porous separation. Sir Keir Starmer was the chief prosecutor in the judiciary. The chief prosecutor of the judiciary is now our Prime Minister.
And he cracked down very heavily in 2011.
Do you not think that he has back channels to talking to the judiciary? Do you not think he has back channels by which he can express his desire to the judiciary? Friends and allies that he has in the judiciary from his decades of service in the Crown prosecution, that when they hear the Prime Minister saying that these rioters will be dealt with a full force of the law, that his allies go, yes, boss, we hear you, we understand, and we will do exactly what you say. And again, is it not apparent to all that Muslim communities who mostly vote Labour were not policed in the same way as the white working class communities who voted Reform? This is why it's politicised.
That's two questions, okay.
Yeah.
So, firstly, just to clarify, so your suggestion is that Keir Starmer, as Prime Minister, within a month of getting in, was going around back channels to courts and speaking to people that he was previously in, that they need to unjustly treat the prisoners, the protesters during the summer. And secondly, do you not think that he had, given his past in 2011 and his previous instances, do you not think that the language that he's used this summer was the exact same? Like, you can go back and check the tapes. It was the exact same language that he used during 2011. He said, we're going to keep the courts open all night, we're going to go after them hard, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So do you not think it's not a thing about the fact that they're white working class, and it's the fact that they were protesters who burnt down hotels, burnt down communities, burnt down libraries? Because he did the exact same stuff, if not harsher, in 2011. when the Conservative government at the time was actually very good.
So it's all right, sister. So 1 second, right? The issue.
I'm not prepared for this debate. Sorry, like I've not got.
Right, you wanted to get involved, bro.
Yeah,
right?
I just wanted to make a point. All your different people jumping in at me. Have a conversation.
None of these, brother. The way to do it is just to focus on me if you want to talk to me.
I am, and
right.
So just jumping in on the side.
Just focus in on the conversation that we're having. Right? So the result is focus on me. The focus is no. She's allowed a voice. I've been heckled.
I thought it was you and me.
Well, I'm not interacting with her. I'm interacting with you.
I know, and I'm not interacting.
Well, there you go then. Okay. Thank you. There you go. That's how you do it at Speaker's Corner, right? So the point is, firstly, Sir Keir Starmer didn't make the policy in 2011. That was made by the government, and we can say that he's using that as a model for how he policed the riots that happened in 2024. But the point is, the reason why people are angry is because we see the duplicity of what occurred. We see the fact that Muslim mobs threatened violence against the police station in Manchester prior to the outbreak of the summer riots, what we're calling the summer riots. And they were policed differently, based upon 2 police officers that were assaulted. We saw that in Leeds, there has been no massive crackdown, and that preceded the summer riots. So what's happened is you've got all these working class communities who just saw a gypsy riot in Leeds, a Muslim riot in Manchester, not being policed, not being prosecuted, and they went, well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. But then the government went, no, you can't do it. They can do it, but you can't do it. And as to double down on the fact that during the same summer riots, when an armed militia walked through the streets of an English city carrying knives and machetes, the police response was, no, could you take them to the police station, but could you use the local mosque as an armory? Could you go and deposit your weapons at the local mosque? Everyone in this country is justified in being outraged at the duplicity and tyrannical use of power of our Labour government.
Okay. Go on, Bob. Can I just go back to the point of how do you think that Keir Starmer, a month after getting into power, what are you, apart from he snuck out of number 10 and spoke to the judges behind everyone's back.
Which is what I'm not saying. That's what you said.
You said before that.
No, I said there were back channels.
Okay, back channels, back door.
Yep.
Okay. You're saying that he spoke to judges secretly.
No, I didn't say that. That's what you said.
You said back doors with
judges. No,
judges.
that's what you said.
Okay, could you...
I have not said that.
You said as...
No, I haven't said that.
You said that
stop trying to put words in my mouth.
Okay, so what did you say then about
so here's the thing.
Back channels with judges?
Sir Keir...
I've got to go soon, Bob.
Sir Keir Starmer, our tyrant-in-chief, was head of the Crown prosecution for years. You don't be the head of the Crown prosecution without having allies, without having work colleagues, without having rapport. So when the Prime Minister now suddenly says we're going to smash down on these reform voters, but he didn't say, I want that Muslim mob arrested. No, just these rioters, these white working class, non-Labour voting rioters should have the full force of the law upon them. Those who are in the judiciary, who have been allies of Sir Keir Starmer.
So those areas were from minority people, Labour voting constituencies in 2011 when not all happened. So why is that different? Because there was no comparison.
I'm not.
There is. They kept the court open.
There was no comparison. You're saying that now.
You can focus on
very similar
the same
policy.
accountability as the people during these riots. Okay. But what Bob is saying is that the people during these riots were not held to the same accountability as other people who rioted at this time.
At this time.
At that time, there was no comparison.
Yeah, there was no counter riots to the 2011 riots. There were no counter mobs. There were no groups walking through the streets with machetes in the 2011 riots. I'll be clear. anyone who tried to burn down a hotel or use violence against the police needs to be prosecuted. Peter Lynch was not one of them. Peter Lynch did not use violence against the police. All he did is shout at the police. There are countless protests in England where people... There are countless examples every Saturday. One second. There's countless examples every Saturday of pro-Hamas terrorist mobs walking through the streets of London and using violence against other people, against counter-protesters, against police, and they are not arrested. And that has been happening every Saturday since October the 7th. So we are right to say that there's two-tier policing. We're right to say that it is a captured judiciary. And why aren't the Muslim mobs who support Hamas terrorism being policed in the same way as the Patriots were policed yesterday? It's because most of those that are marching in support of terrorism and calling for the genocide of Jews will vote Labour at the next election.
One of the points you made, I've got to go after this debate, last point. One of the points that you made was that this is to do with Keir Starmer and Labour in government. But the so-called hate marches that were going on...
Wait, what so-called hate marches?
So last year...
You mean the ones that are still happening now?
Yeah, in response to what's going on in Israel.
That are not policed by riot police, in which multiple people are attacked.
Buildings aren't being burnt down, no one's being killed like that.
But people are being attacked. No one was killed in the summer riots.
Just to finish with that.
Except for the victims that sparked them off.
Okay, so these so-called hate riots that were happening, that you think haven't been policed,
they haven't.
Let's say they haven't. Let's say completely. Let's do what they want. That happened during a Conservative government last year. So if that's the case during Conservative government, why? I think the point I'm trying to get at, what has Labour done to change that? Because your point is right. So, but why have the Tories? Why is it a Labour thing? If they're the same thing.
That's a fair point.
Okay.
It's a fair point. No, it's a fair.
I don't get.
It's a fair question. It's a fair question. It's a fair question, and it's a very fair point to the thesis. As follow the same ideology. They are ideologically the same. The only difference between our current Labour Party and our current Conservative Party is difference of management styles. Ideologically, they have the same worldview, and that's why they behaved in the same way. If the Conservatives had won the same election, the last election, I would not doubt that we would still see a two-tier judiciary and a two-tier policing. The problem is our entire elites, our entire ruling class of you, which you seem to be an apologist for, our entire elites, our entire ruling class
So is it Keir Starmer
are frightened, our entire elites, our entire ruling class are frightened of widespread civil unrest by the Muslim community, and so they let them get away literally with anything, including the rape of thousands of girls in the north of England. Yes, they do. Yes, they did. How long did those rapes go on for before they were finally tackled?
Which rapes?
You don't know.
I've got to go, but alright.
You don't know. Wait, you don't know about the child grooming that's gone on in the north of England. So you don't know about it.
I've heard about it, but a lot of the stuff has been proven over-exaggerated. More of the cases. If you look at.
Oh, so how many do you think were raped then? Hundreds, thousands?
I don't want to discuss numbers about people raped.
No, I do.
Okay, my point is.
I do. Hundreds or thousands?
Okay, thousands, right.
Thousands. How many does it have to be? Wait, 1 second. How many thousands does it have to be before it becomes a cover-up?
I wouldn't say that.
Wait, how many thousands does it have to be before it's a cover-up?
I don't think there's a high proportion.
Let me give you an example.
I don't think that there's a high proportion.
Let me talk with him. Let me talk, sister.
I've got to go.
Right.
Just last point. Last point. I do not believe that there is a high proportion of Muslim people who rape people than white people. I do not. I've looked up articles.
For them, you look at the list of names. The vast majority of those names are Muslim names.
But I don't believe if you were to look up rape, paedophilia, all these sorts of things in the UK. If you were to get crime statistics up, it does not show that there's a high proportion. You can look it up.
No, it does show it. One second.
There is not.
One second.
There
second.
is instances.
1 second. It's the nature of the crime.
There is instances
The way the crime was carried out.
Yeah, there is instances of grooming gangs. Some of them being Muslim.
You try to diminish it because it breaks your narrative.
I'm not diminishing it.
You are.
I'm saying
We're talking about the raping of thousands of girls, and for you, you're trying to diminish it like it's not a problem.
Of course, it's a terrible problem.
No, you don't sound like it's a terrible problem.
I think it's disgusting.
So why was it allowed to continue under Labour?
I don't think it was allowed to continue.
It was.
I don't think it was. But the point that you're making, that a high statistic of Muslim men have been rapists and paedophiles.
I didn't make that point. That's what you said. I didn't say that. I did not say that.
What I'm suggesting is that the issue of grooming gangs, yes, okay, we can all agree that that's a problem.
And
I think
the point is the establishment, police officers, local councillors, and even social workers looked away.
I don't think that's
They even said that the reason why they looked away is because they didn't want to be accused of racism.
I know the example that you're using, and it's been proven that was not a...
Go on, bring out your proof then.
You were the one that used...
Just to make a claim.
You were the one that used the evidence.
Give me an example.
But you were the one that used...
You wanted examples. Give me an example.
You're the one making the claim. I'm saying that I don't think that's true. So I'm saying...
So
you're making a claim about evidence.
Right. I'll give you an example. You want an example. I'll give you an example, right?
I'll listen to this.
I'll give you an example. He wants an example. Right? Decades ago, I remember watching an interview with Jack Straw on what's the Channel 2 news broadcast that comes on every week on Channel 2 late news night. And on that interview, Jack Straw tried to talk about the fact that Asian gangs were targeting white girls as easy meat. Jack Straw was pulled through the ringer. And this was years before Tommy Robinson's march in Rotherham, right? No, Jack Straw said Asian gangs, right? Right? He was pulled through the ringer, and he was sanctioned by the Labour Party. He was sanctioned by his boss, Tony Blair. And the issue did not become a national story until Tommy Robinson took the EDL and marched through Rotherham, and that's when everyone started paying attention. And I come from the north of England, and let me tell an apologist for the elites. This crime is still going on. It is still happening. It has not been stopped, and it is still occurring because of Muslim, not Asian, grooming gangs.
I said I don't agree with the statistics. I've got to go.
All right, take care of yourself.